weekend in the XFL. Saturday at 1 p.m., the St. Louis Battlehawks look to strengthen their playoff position.
Into the end zone, and a St. Louis touchdown.
As they host Jalen McClendon and the Vegas Vipers. Then at 4 p.m., coming off a huge win, Quentin Dormady and the Orlando Guardians hope to continue to play spoiler as the Arlington Renegades push closer to a playoff spot.
Maybe on Smith, clear path, end zone, touchdown. Second score of the night.
On Sunday at 3 p.m., in another Texas showdown, the San Antonio Brahmas
Brown, one man to beat.
try to tighten the playoff race against their division rival, the Houston Roughnecks, led by William Likely.
The Roughnecks take it to the house for the 35-yard return.
Then at 7 p.m., Ben DiNucci and the surging Seattle Sea Dragons
Do not let me get hot, son.
battle for a share of first place against Abram Smith and the DC Defender.
Has a man over the middle. Get off me! An 86-yard touchdown.
What is up, my friends, and welcome to another edition of the XOG XFL Weekend Review. I'm your host, Mark Perry, editor of XFL News Hub, your alt football media guru, episode 195. On today's show, we've got coaching and player news, injury updates, depth charts, the whole kind of shebang. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to do the latest XFL roster transactions, injury news, depth charts. Then we'll get into the latest news. Then we'll get into the XFL lines, the XFL ladder, which we lost last week because there was some upsets, but we actually lost 2 out of the 3 parts of the ladder. I'll explain the XFL ladder later. We're basically taking $5 and then now make it into about 500. That's our kind of goal for that. So we've got all of that. Plus, you guys in the chat room, welcome in the chat room. So we're mixing things up a little bit differently. So, and then we'll talk later on in the show. But without further ado, folks, let's just get into a preview of this week's XFL games. All right, first let's take a look at the XFL Transaction. So if you didn't see this article coming soon, Paxton Lynch got traded from the Orlando or via put on waivers, I'm not really sure. He moves over to the San Antonio Brahmas because the Brahmas are struggling. Kurt Benkert is on IR, so he is done for the season as well. So a lot of things happening with the Brahmas quarterback situation. So now Paxton Lynch is now over in Orlando. Quentin Dormady is the guy in Orlando. We'll get to the picks later on in the show. Raymond Callis was released. He didn't really play much for the DC Defenders. There's Kurt Benkert on injured reserve. Jalen Tolliver also on injured reserve. So clearly the San Antonio Brahmas are going to struggle for the rest of the season on offense. Other guys, Hunter Duplessis, the place kicker, was put on injured reserve for their Houston Roughnecks. Something to keep an eye on there. Michael Maietti, center for the DC Defenders, a big part. He was kind of hurt in the beginning of the season. He was put on IR as well. The Vipers signed D'Angelo Fulford, quarterback, so I guess he will be the third stringer. I don't foresee him having any playing time. Sam Sloman, kicker, was signed by the Vegas Vipers. They added them, and the Houston Roughnecks also added Austin Jones as a kicker. Nick Holley returns to the XFL after a little stint in he got cut, but now he is back for the Brahmas, trying to help them out. Puka Williams was with the DC Defenders, then he was with St. Louis, then he's back with the DC Defenders because they have some injuries. DJ Swearinger, safety, has been added to the XFL. That was a big signing by the XFL this past week. Morgan Ellison on injured reserve, out for the season. Also, Edmund Robinson for the Orlando Guardians. Drew Plitt was also put on injured reserve. We talked about Philip Lindsay getting added. Kelly Bryant, quarterback, got added to the Arlington Renegades. See, Bailey Giffen got released by the Vipers there. That's the latest news when it comes to The transaction wire. As far as the injuries, we definitely need to keep an eye on the injuries. Let's take a look at that. So right now, Jeff Badet, Vegas Vipers, out. His game status is out. Something to keep in mind for your betting and DFS and one of the top receivers in the league. He is out. So that is going to hurt Jalen McClendon because that's his probably best target. Geronimo Allison, he back. He looks like probable. Everybody else is pretty much probable. That one was kind of a big out there. DB Tim Harris is out for the St. Louis Battlehawks. Arlington Renegades, Victor Bolden is questionable. That was a guy they brought in to try to help them out. Bumani Rutimi, linebacker, he is out. That will hurt their defense, which is probably their only strength of their team. So he is out for the game there, but Donald Payne will be playing, so he's good. As far as Orlando Guardians, they look good as far as the injury fronts, just some dinged up offensive linemen. They should be good to go. I really think Orlando is going to win 2 in a row this weekend. We'll have to find out. Houston Roughnecks, we don't really know much about what's happening with Brandon Silvers. They didn't practice. He was limited in practice based on the way Cole McDonald played. Potentially, this could be a deal where they really want him to play because they just didn't look the same, but I don't think they have anything to worry about. I think you can go with Cole McDonald for this game. Nothing going on the San Antonio Brahmas. On the DC, really the game of the week, DC Defenders Seattle. Let's see here. The only one that did not practice, basically everybody's kind of dinged up, but everybody seems ready to go for the DC Defenders. Jakura Pearson, foot was on. He was limited in practice, but he looks to be all right. But we're still, those are the only kind of names just to kind of keep in mind with what's going on the injury front. Really the biggest one is Jeff Badet out. As far as your depth charts for the teams, Orlando Guardians, Arlington Renegades, the game that I will be at. We'll see you at Camping World Stadium this Saturday at 4 p.m. Quentin Dormandy is the guy. DeAndre Francois is the backup. Devin Darrington is now the starting running back over Jermaine Martin. I kind of agree with that. Cody Latimer is a guy. Charleston Rambo, Dan Williams, Eli Rogers. They have a good wide receiver crew there. For the Arlington Renegades, the quarterback looks like Luis Perez is getting the start this weekend over Kevin Anderson, who's been there all season, and then Kelly Bryant, which they just brought in. Javante Patton, Sal Cannella, wide receiver, tight end, Devon Smith, Brendan Arcondo, and Tyler Vaughns. Victor Bolden, who has basically had a good week last week. He looks to be a guy that he's still low on the depth charts. I would move him up. Houston Roughnecks, San Antonio Brahmas. Let's take a look at that one. We have Justin Smith as a wide receiver starting. They have Brandon Silvers as the starter with Cole McDonald as the backup. We'll have to keep an eye on this. Max Borghi, Travell Harris, Dante Burnett, Cedric Byrd, all guys that you can think about having in your DFS lineup. On the San Antonio Brahmas side, quarterback Jack Cohn is looking to be the guy. He wasn't on the injury report, so looks like he will get the start. Jawan Pass is the backup, and Paxton Lynch is the third string. Jaquez Patrick, TJ Vasher. Landon Akers looked like to be a guy. Same with Fred Brown, Elise Mack, tight end, and Emmanuel Butler going on there. Also, DC Defenders, Seattle Sea Dragons, Josh Gordon, Charlie Tapiamanu, tight end. Ben DiNucci is the starter. Darius Bradwell is the starter at running back. Philip Lindsay is the backup. That's something to kind of keep in mind. Jacob Pearson, Blake Jackson, Jawan Green, all great starts for the DC Defenders. Josh Hammond, of course, Jordan Tamu, Abram Smith, Lucky Jackin, Jaquez Ezzard, Jazz Ferguson. Chris Blair has been having good games as a guy to take a look at there. So some surprising things, some new. It looks like Jack Cohn will be your guy. DC Defenders, Seattle Sea Dragons. Of course, this, my friends, is the game of the week that you're definitely going to want to check out Sunday, April 9th at 4 p.m. in Seattle. There you have it for the latest injury, transactions, and depth charts. So there you go. The XFL Week 7 cable ratings are in from our main man, Mike Mitchell, and the league scores its lowest viewership of the season. So the cable TV ratings are out for Week 7 of the XFL season after bouncing back in Week 6 with favorable viewership numbers. And the return to ABC, the XFL's viewership numbers took a hit back exclusively on cable. The XFL's 4 games on cable TV averaged 350,000 viewers, the lowest average viewership output of the season. Now, the figures started out extremely poorly Friday night on FX against top competition, but bounced back Saturday and Sunday to more respectable levels. So, Week 7 of the cable TV ratings on ESPN and FX. Friday night's game on FX between the Arlington Renegades and Seattle Sea Dragons averaged 177,000 viewers, the lowest rating average for a game during the 2023 season. The telecast also scored its lowest ranking in the 18 to 49 demo, 101 out of 150. Now, the competition clobbered Friday's XFL game. NCAA Women's Final Four and ESPN peaked at around 5 million viewers. WWE SmackDown on Fox, which led into the WrestleMania, 2.5 million viewers head-to-head with the XFL. Now, the 177,000 average for the XFL is the lowest in recent spring football, averaging 4,000 fewer viewers than the USFL did on a Sunday night on FS1 last summer. The 350,000 weekly average on cable for the XFL is almost as low as the USFL's final 4 regular season games on Fox, FS1, and USA Network, and Week 10 last year, which averaged around 337,750 viewers. I will point out one thing when it comes to these ratings is I couldn't find the game because on not on FS1, but on FX, it was like Hobbs and Shaw was the listing. So not that that was the cause of it, but it was like stuff like that. And I mean, you think the NFL, they would screw up that with the NFL or basically any other league. So that was kind of a bad thing. Now, the 2 highest rated scheduled programs on FX as of Friday, March 31st, was Snowfall with 552,000 viewers, and then XFL was ranked 2. So, I mean, it ranks well for TV shows on FX. Saturday afternoon's Week 7 XFL game on ESPN2 that featured the San Antonio Brahmas and Vegas Vipers averaged 356,000 viewers. Telecast was rated 50th out of the top 150 cable TV shows. Saturday evening's games, which saw the previously winless Orlando Guardians upset the 6-0 America's team, DC Defenders. We all know that. It was an exciting game. 37-36, averaged 365,000 viewers on ESPN. That telecast ranked 19th out of 150 cable TV shows. To state that the XFL's cable viewership numbers on cable have been modest would be an understatement. However, for what it's worth, the XFL has held up favorably on the second-tier cable stations of ESPN2 and FX. So the top ESPN2 shows, you can see the XFL is number 1 at 371,000 viewers. NIT Tournament, NCAA Hockey Championship, NCAA Women's Basketball Championship Studio, basketball, college softball. So you can see that the XFL does, as far as a product on ESPN2, does well there. The final week of the XFL Sunday afternoon slate on ESPN between the St. Louis Battlehawks and Houston Roughnecks averaged 502,000 viewers. I can always tell this on the website. There was more interest on the website. Telecast was rated 25th out of 150. The game was originally scheduled for 2 p.m. Eastern on ESPN, but was pushed back to 2:24 because ESPN's earlier broadcast of pickleball went into overtime. The latter averaged an impressive 669,000 viewers. So they kind of maybe gave it a little bit of lead in. I was looking for the game on ESPN Plus, and it just kept saying event is coming. And then people were like, what's this pickleball thing? There you have it. So it was kind of a weak obstruction for the XFL. Saturday's XFL game competed directly with the NCAA Final Four. Sunday's ESPN game went head-to-head with the Women's National Championship game, which got 9.5 million viewers. Perhaps now with March Madness out of the way and the league entering in postseason push, the XFL can bounce back the coming weekend with a Sunday afternoon telecast airing on ABC and an extremely important first-place clash Sunday night between the 6-1 DC Defenders and the 5-2 Seattle Sea Dragons, who have recently added Pro Bowl Philip Lindsay to the mix, which could also kind of generate some interest. The location of the game, ESPN2, could limit its overall viewership of that pivotal contest, but that's expected to be the trend. So also marked the last weekend that the XFL has a spring pro football world to itself, as the USFL returns for its second season on NBC and Fox April 16th or April 15th and 16th. So keep that in mind. This is about to get really interesting. So the Week 8 TV schedule, Vegas Vipers at St. Louis Battlehawks is Saturday the 8th at 1 p.m. on ESPN. Arlington Renegades at Orlando Guardians, a game that I will be at, is Saturday, April 8th at 4 p.m. That will be on ESPN. Hopefully you could see me there. Houston Roughnecks at San Antonio Brahma is on Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern. That's on ABC, which hopefully should get a good thing. And the DC Defenders, Seattle Sea Dragon, big game, Sunday night, 7 p.m., ESPN2. Hopefully we can get a good crowd now out in Seattle as well. As for some of the attendance numbers, the Seattle Sea Dragons Arlington Renegades game on March 31st, competing with Tay-Tay in town. Taylor Swift had 11,032 in attendance there. The Brahmas Vipers game had 6,000. So basically, and Vegas is done. There's no more Vegas home games. Cashman Field, we're done. We'll see you next year. That, again, gets 6,041. DC Defenders, Orlando Guardians with a classic matchup. Remember, the Orlando team in the AAF was getting 20,000 people. This game, 7,011 for that, and that was on ESPN. Classic game. Maybe we'll see more interest this weekend because of how the team beat the DC Defenders. And then the St. Louis Battlehawks, Houston Roughnecks got 12,013. So it seems like the average we want to see this iteration instead of 2020 versus 2023. We want to see, 12,000 seems to be the number. And they'll have all off season long. The Guardians and Vipers are already talking season tickets for year 2. Other teams will come online as well. We'll see how things shape out for the end of the season, but it will be interesting once the USFL comes on board, how that will impact TV ratings. XFL Championship tickets are on sale now. That's right, the XFL announced today that tickets for the 2023 XFL Championship game are on sale. XFL.com/tickets to grab them up. So remember, it's at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas, on Saturday, May 13th, 8 p.m. I will be there, yours truly, and a bunch of the XFL News Hub crew will be there as well. Tickets start at $25, but here's the interesting part of this announcement is that the South Division Championship game, which is the Roughnecks, Renegades, Brahmas, Guardians, will be played Saturday, April 29th at 7 p.m. on ESPN2. The North Division game, Defenders, Sea Dragons, Battlehawks, Vipers, will be played Sunday, April 30th at 3 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. So there you have it. So as a DC Defenders fan, that's our game. If we're going to play a game, assuming everything works out, championship game will be on Sunday. It will be interesting. These 3 teams this weekend is really going to prove to see who's going to be finishing where. And then anybody's ball game right now, we'll have to kind of see. I mean, even the Orlando Guardians are in it for the South Division. But tickets are on sale now. Get them while they're hot. We had a little fun doing some XFL playoff scenarios just to kind of who is in, who is out, who can clinch a playoff berth. So with only 3 weeks remaining in the XFL regular season, the playoff picture is starting to take shape. The top 2 teams from each division will advance to the playoffs as it stands. The North and South divisions have their own tight races. This weekend games is set to will really decide these playoff races, and we have it all breaking down. All right, are you ready for this stuff? So the DC Defenders are 6-1. They currently hold the top spot in the North Division. And with 2 wins in the remaining 3 games, they will clinch first place. Simple. The Battlehawks Sea Dragons are right on their tails, however. DC owns the tiebreaker with the Battlehawks, so a win against the Sea Dragons this weekend would also secure the tiebreaker and a playoff spot. So if the DC Defenders win this weekend against the Seattle Sea Dragons, they clinch a playoff spot. Battlehawks, on the other hand, they're in strong position. They're 5-2, just like the Sea Dragons. And really, both of these teams, Sea Dragons and Battlehawks, really come down to their matchup in Week 9. So we'll see how things play out this week. But really, I think that their Week 9 matchup is going to decide who is going to take second place in the division, especially if DC beats Seattle. But then if Seattle beats DC and St. Louis wins, you know what I mean, that whole thing. Vegas Vipers, they are out of contention. They are out because even if because of the Sea Dragons Battlehawks facing each other in Week 9, that gives one of those two teams 6 wins, and it makes it impossible for the Vegas Vipers to make it. On the South Division, the Roughnecks currently lead the division, but they are sliding. They can still clinch a playoff berth, winning 2 of their last 3 games, so it's in their hands. They can also secure a spot if the Arlington Renegades lose 1 game and the San Antonio Brahmas lose 2 games. Something to keep in mind there. The Renegades are in second place. They're wishy-washy. They're 3-4. They can win, of course, by winning all their remaining games and having the Roughnecks lose at least 1 game. They can also advance if they win 2 games and the Brahmas lose at least 1 game. So they are kind of still in the mix. The Brahmas are still in the mix. They really basically need to win all out, and some losses between the Renegades and Roughnecks to make the playoffs. The best case scenario for them is just win it out. Here's the interesting one. The Orlando Guardians at 1-6 are still alive. If the Roughnecks lose, of course, their next 3 games, they still own the tiebreaker. Orlando's battle is not with the Houston Roughnecks. So the Houston Roughnecks, there's nothing they can do about them. It's that second position. It's with Arlington and San Antonio. They need to beat both teams over the next 2 weeks to stay in the hunt, starting with this weekend's game against the Renegades. So the Guardians play Arlington. I think they can beat Arlington. I also think they could beat San Antonio. So we have to keep an eye on this, but the Guardians are not out yet. So with just a few weeks left in the XFL regular season, the playoff race is heating up. We'll have to keep an eye on these different scenarios, but really this week is going to really kind of define what the last 2 weeks will be all about. Pat Ruffino has his Week 8 QB rankings, so let's get right into it. Honorable mentions of Kevin Anderson and Nick Tiano. Basically, they just kind of showed up. Anderson came in after Drew Plitt injured his knee. He's done for the season. Nick Tiano did the same after A.J. McCarron had a headset issue with the Battlehawks, but pretty much Tiano made his professional debut after having stints with the Texans, Argos, and Montreal Alouettes. Let's get right into it. Number 10, he's got Jawan Pass. He had 2 of 6, 32 yards, nothing else going on there. He was ranked 8th. He is now ranked 10th. We will see with Jack Cohn this weekend whether or not that plays a factor if Jawan Pass plays more. But they also made the trade for Paxton Lynch, but Paxton Lynch is not going to play anytime soon. It's basically, Ben Kurt is out. Jack Cohen is still nursing a low body injury, so maybe Pass will play. But as of right now, the depth charts are saying that Cohen is the guy. Drew Plitt out for the season. He was ranked 9. He was 19 of 29, 213 yards. Didn't really do much, again, staying away from the Renegades offense. They've just been blah. They had a lot of high hopes in Arlington for Drew Plitt. We'll see. Basically, we'll check in with you guys next year. His final stats were a 63 of 99 versus a 63.6% passer rating, or completion percentage, 668 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 4 picks, and some rushing yards and 3 fumbles as well. So Drew Plitt did not look good. Cole McDonald came in. He was ranked 4th. I was really excited to see him play. 15 of 32, 106 passing yards, a touchdown and interception. It seems like potentially Brandon Silvers could be a go this weekend. That's something you have to keep in mind. But yeah, it was kind of a disappointing one for Cole McDonald. Ben Kurt was ranked 12th, moved up to 7th. He was 22 of 31, 179 passing yards, a touchdown and a pick, but the broken ribs done him under. Really didn't get a chance to do anything in the XFL, so he is done for the season. De'Aaron King was an honorable mention last week, but came in. Now he's at 6. He was 1 for 1 for 12 passing yards and a touchdown. 3 rushing attempts for 20 yards. Definitely, he's not been used as much on the passing game that he was in the beginning of the season. But still, I mean, compared to how everybody else is playing, Derek King is a guy. I wonder if other teams would be interested in him down the road. Jalen McClendon, he was unranked. He looked great. He's now number 5. 21 of 31, 264 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 25 yards on the ground. Did have a fumble, but he looked good. He looked like he had command of the game. He is now a guy, definitely, I agree, in the top 5. Ben DiNucci was 5th. Now he's up to 4th. 21 of 32, 266 passing yards, a touchdown and a pick. Also 52 yards on the ground. They continue to win. He continues to throw an interception in the red zone. He is given an interception. He has 14 turnovers for the season. Yikes. Ben DiNucci, 14 turnovers. Maybe he'll get a look in the NFL. I think he needs another year in the XFL to kind of straighten his game out. It's definitely a guy. Number 3, Quinton Dormady. He was 6. Now he's Dormady. I always say Dormady. Dormady. 27 of 34, 328 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 8 rushes for 22 yards and 3 touchdowns. He did have a fumble, looked fantastic. You know, Dormady had possibly one of the greatest games in all football history, totaling 350 yards and 6 touchdowns. And he's got command of the offense. He is their guy now going forward. So congratulations, Dormady. After all the drama that he went through, he looks like to be a guy. Now he's ranked 3rd. Could you believe that? The worst team in the league has the 3rd highest ranked quarterback, but it makes sense. He played great, and they had the big upset. Jordan Ta'amu, DC Defenders, 2. It was ranked 2 before. 21 of 29, 285 yards, 3 touchdowns, 23 yards rushing. Still back-to-back. Ta'amu was one of the best players in the league. He was one of the best in the USFL, so it's no shocker here that he is also playing well there. And, of course, number 1, the MVP now. It was kind of, maybe it was Brandon Silvers in the beginning and A.J. McCarron was in the talk. Now it's really just A.J. McCarron and Jordan Ta'amu. 26 of 34, 222 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. He is the guy in St. Louis. St. Louis has their guy. But that top 5 is looking good. We'll see what happens with these other teams as they finish the season. But guys to keep an eye on, Dormady, Jalen McClendon, look like they could potentially be players in the XFL. Some roster moves real quick. The Vegas Vipers signed D'Angelo Fulford. They make 2 other. Fulford, in his 4 years at Mount Union, passing yards, 9,482 passing yards, 134 passing TDs, and 13 picks, and 1,333 rushing yards and 20 touchdowns. The 6'2 quarterback hasn't played in a professional league yet, but was signed by the Bay Area Panthers of the IFL in late 2022, but never got a chance to play. Now he is with the Vegas Vipers, but he'll be the 3rd stringer behind Brent Hundley, of course, and Jalen McClendon. But a guy put up some crazy numbers in his college years. He was 6 Bailey before the Vipers. On Monday, they released Bailey Giffen, 2 days after he made his season-long field goal, which was good from 37 yards. But he didn't play very well, so they make their rooms there. And that's it for the Giffen. They went and got Sam Sloman, played with the Rams in 2020 with the Tennessee Titans. He was 10 of 13 field goals in both teams in 2020 and went on to be a free agent, ending his 2022 season with the Titans roster. He jumped from practice squad, so now he is the kicker for the Vipers. But D'Angelo Fulford could be a guy that they look at for going on maybe for season 2 in the XFL. It's just a kind of guy that could get some help, learn a thing or two in the XFL. Also, DC Defenders add former NFL draft picks DJ Swearing and Isaiah Johnson to their secondary. Again, the fact that the DC Defenders gave up a lot of points and lose to Orlando was a sign that they needed to solidify their defense. So ahead of their biggest game of the XFL season, the Sunday night clash with the first place stakes on the line against the Sea Dragons, the DC Defenders have added 2 veteran NFL DBs to their roster. They signed DJ Swearing and cornerback Isaiah Johnson. In recent weeks, contending XFL teams have been in an arm race when it comes to the postseason. Of course, we know about Philip Lindsay getting added. So Director of Personnel Vaughn Hutchins is reinforcing Greg Williams' offense. To make room for the latest acquisition, DC moved Michael Maietti, the center, and DB KJ Sales to their reserve list. Sales was the hype man. We're going to miss him in the season, so that he is out. But so they signed NFL veteran safety DJ Swearinger, 31, former All-SEC player out of South Carolina, who the Houston Texans drafted in the second round of the 2013 NFL Draft. Well-traveled, hard-hitting hybrid defensive back, started 73 games over his NFL career, registering 425 career tackles, 4.5 sacks, 9 forced fumbles, 4 fumble recoveries, 43 pass breakups, and 14 picks in 110 NFL games. So lots of experience. Played with the Texans, Raiders, Colts, Buccaneers, Saints, Washington, and Arizona Cardinals. Had his share of controversies in his NFL run in 2013 to 2022. So he, let's see. So we'll see about him on the team. And then they signed 4th-round pick Isaiah Johnson from the Raiders. He was selected as Oakland's 4th-round pick in the 2019 NFL Draft as well. So we'll see if these guys even get playing time this weekend. I mean, they've got a short week to get things going, but these are some guys that are adding DC defenders, trying to solidify their defense for their run, hopefully, in the playoffs.
Get ready for the biggest XFL season yet with RunTheSims.com, your ultimate toolkit for XFL DFS and prop betting. With DraftKings offering XFL contests with huge prize pools, you want to have the best tools and player projections at your fingertips. And Run the Sims delivers with their lineup optimizer, showdown simulator, and expert pick'em tools for prize picks and underdog. So here's the deal. Use code NEWSHUB for 10% off a monthly or weekly spring football subscription and get access to accurate projections to help you make informed decisions and make that money. That's runthesims.com. Use the promo code NEWSHUB for 10% off. So if you followed spring football and in the past, you know the information edge can be massive. So if you want to win big, subscribe to runthesims.com and use the promo code NEWSHUB today to save 10% off.
All right, we are back, my friends. What's up, chat room? John, he says, I don't know if you're going to do this on this show, but I wouldn't mind seeing season stats for comparison for positions, how QBs stack up against each other. Yeah, we're going to do, I think that's a great idea to do stats. We'll do season stats, potentially, I think, on our Monday show. But yeah, I think that's a good idea. The Chi says, is the XFL expanding next year? No, I doubt it very much, though we are going to have expansion article coming soon. Lemons V. Cut says, I'm excited for Fulford and Philip Lindsay. We'll see. I just don't know if there's enough time for these guys to get going and for their teams right this second. He also says that's good to see more players who couldn't get another contract or who fell short in the NFL to go to XFL. That means it's growing. Yeah, I mean, they're getting named guys to come in. We'll see how the USFL goes this year, and then we'll see what kind of things the XFL can bring in 2024. They're already getting season ticket deposits already for 2024. All right, let's get right into it, my friends. We have the ladder. We have our preview picks, so let's get right into it. So first, the picks for this weekend. Vegas Vipers at St. Louis Battlehawks. It's going to be loud. Vegas Vipers. I have 22-28 St. Louis Battlehawks winning that game. That is that could be a good one, especially that Jalen McClendon is now a guy with the Battlehawks. I don't think they'll break any kind of attendance records in that game. Arlington Renegades at Orlando Guardians, the game that I will be at. We'll see you there. We'll post on our social media of where we'll kind of meet up. That's at 4 o'clock on Saturday. I've got 9:23. Orlando Guardians. I think the Guardians can beat the Renegades, and I think they can beat the Brahmas going out for the season. So I think they are definitely in the hunt. Houston Roughnecks at San Antonio Brahmas. I got, again, Brahmas struggling on offense. I don't think Jack Cohn is the guy, is the answer. So I think 26-6 Houston Roughnecks end the losing streak and keep going. and kind of get back on track and kind of lock up that division. DC Defenders at Seattle Sea Dragons, Sunday night, 7 p.m. on ESPN2. I've got 28-24 DC Defenders. I think they can bounce back. This one, though, it is up in the air, my friends. I don't know. Seattle's used to traveling to Seattle. They don't like it. Ben DiNucci had complained about it. DC is going all the way out there. Seattle should have beat the DC Defenders in week 1. This is a revenge match. If DC can win this game, though, they clinch the playoffs and be in great shape. But I don't know about this one. I think it could go either way, but I'm going with 28-24, your America's team, DC Defenders. Let's get into our DraftKings lineup. Let's see here. Where is it? There we go. DraftKings lineup for this week. We didn't do well last week, but I got Quentin Dormady, a guy. I think Arlington, they have injuries on the defensive side of thing. I think he's a guy. Max Borghi is a guy for can run all over San Antonio. Lucky Jackson's been playing great for the DC Defenders. This will be a high-scoring game. Houston Travell Harris at wide receiver. I've got him. Marcel Aitman, I think he was supposed to be like the top receiver really in the XFL. I think he finally coming back from injury. I think he could get some more reps, and he was cheap at $4,100. Cody Latimer. He's been playing great, so I've got that Dormady-Latimer connection. He is in there as well. And then Houston Roughnecks defense, because they're going against San Antonio, and I think San Antonio is struggling big time. Now, we have our ladder. So we lost last week, so we're trying to restart the ladder this week. We've got, you can place a $5 bet. It actually will win you 27, but we said 23. Then basically, this week we place $5. If we hit the spread, the over-under, the money line, then we take that money and we do it for next week. We did get one in a row, but last week got a total bust. So we're going to try again with the hope that at the end of the season we get to $502. So basically you take your $5 bet this week, we win the 3 spots, then we use that same $23 that we won, do it again, and then we get $109, and then we get $109, then we do it one more time, and then get to $500. That's kind of what the money ladder is. So right now we have the betting odds. This is my ladder picks of the week. Vegas Vipers over under. I think this will be a high scoring game. I thought about that. I'm staying away from the spread just because it could be close. Jalen McClendon has looked good. Jeff Badette is out, which is kind of a problem for me. He is one of the top receivers in the league, so this could definitely, but I think St. Louis can put up some big points in front of their hometown crowd. Orlando Guardians, I'm picking the spread. I'm taking the Guardians. I think they will beat the Arlington Renegades. They have been struggling, and so that was an easy pick. I think Orlando can come out on top. Thought about the over-under for them. The problem is I don't know if Arlington Renegades are going to put any offense together. It looks like Luis Perez is starting. He had just gotten there, so we'll see how that goes. Houston Roughnecks, San Antonio Brahmas. I'm picking the money line for the Houston Roughnecks, and I'm staying away from the DC Defenders, Seattle Sea Dragons, because I don't know where that can go. They can go crazy points. DC Defenders just added new guys on defense. That might change things. So basically what you got is the 46 over for the Vegas Vipers, St. Louis Battlehawks. We've got the spread with the Orlando Guardians, the -1.5, and then we're taking the money line for the Houston Roughnecks over the San Antonio Brahmas. There is our picks this week. Also, make sure you play that XFL Pick'em game. I don't know if you guys have seen that, if you played it. Let's see. We have the picks here. Vegas Vipers. Just make sure you play the Pick'em game. So we have it right here. We picked the Vegas Vipers over under. Yeah, so just make sure you pick these pay-per-view, the XFL Pick'em. I always kind of forget. But this is kind of where I made my picks, but who cares? Just kind of want to remind you about that stuff. All right, my friends, appreciate everybody in the chat. Last thing in the chat room, shout out to the chat room for hanging out with us this week. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Smash that notification bell. Get alerted when new shows are coming up. Next week is going to be questionable. I will be away in Florida. We'll be in Orlando. We'll see you in Orlando for the Orlando Guardians game. So we'll see how that goes. And then, so I don't know what we're going to do as far as podcasting and all that good stuff. So remember, if you want to be part of the show, email podcast at XFL News Hub with your thoughts, record an MP3 or video on your phone. We'll play it on next week's show. 888-430-7692, extension 3. Also, please leave us a review on Apple Podcast and Spotify. We appreciate that. And you can watch our show live at 8 p.m. Eastern every Monday and Thursday, except for next week. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, as always. Appreciate you guys stopping by. We will see you in Orlando, Florida. We will see you in San Antonio. That's it for me, folks. God bless, as always, and I will see you all later.